Hello, welcome to another edition of Healthcare Pulse in a Minute. My name is Carrie. I'll be your host today. In today's episode, we're going to discuss a really important topic in healthcare today. The work aspects that negatively affect retention for RNs is the hot topic that we will be talking about. I'm here with my colleague, Dr. Letter Snyder. Many of you might know David, who is an expert in operational improvement in hospitals and healthcare systems across the country. We have been thinking about the most important topics that are on the top of mind for executives in healthcare, and one of them is nurse retention. We did a comprehensive survey with over 1,800 registered nurses to understand the factors that contribute to the very high average turnover rate in hospitals of 20%. It's a very high number. So nurses were asked to rate their agreement with potential reasons for this trend. And we found that they had valuable insight and listening to their experience and hearing about their perceptions. So, David, welcome. And let's talk about how to get started on this interesting topic.
Thank you, Carrie, and hello to everyone. Yes, this is probably one of the most important issues right now, at the heart of the workforce management in healthcare, which is the whole issue related to retaining staff, with projections of nearly 250,000 deficits or vacancies by the middle of the next decade, that the United States will not be able to supply that many nurses. This issue of trying to hire your nurses and retaining your nurses has become one of the most important issues. We did a full survey of some of the 12 really issues that are affecting them, and that's probably what we're going to bring to our discussion today.
Very good. Well, let's go to the first idea. This is an interesting result. It says, I am looking for a job with another organization. Over 30% of the nurses said that that's what they were thinking. They were looking to go to another organization. Boy, help us understand that a little bit better.
Yeah, Carrie, this is really a fundamental issue. About a third of the nurses that responded to us are actively looking for another job. This is really a stark reminder that we are failing, we are failing to create an environment where the nurses feel valued, they feel supported, they feel rewarded. We need to address this very, very quickly. This is really an urgent matter. We need to recognize that investing in our nurses is not just an expense, it's an investment in the true future of the hospitals, both in terms of quality of care and obviously on workforce management and the financials of the hospital.
Okay, very good. Well, that certainly is a very sobering statistic. 30% looking for another job. So let's get deeper into this. What are some of the reasons?
Many of the nurses, we were wondering whether it has something to do with the way they actually are scheduled to work. Over a quarter of the nurses are seeking different work hours. When you consider that the challenging realities that nurses face, number one, entry-level salaries are often very low, and almost all new nurses start on night shift, disrupting their personal life. These issues in particular, we know that they significantly impact retention, rethinking night shift compensation, not only on salaries, but also on the benefits that are providing for people working those shifts, creating pathways for transition to other shifts and other settings, and providing mentorship and support, to specifically for these nurses to navigate these challenges are now absolutely mandatory issue to be able to maintain a lot of these nurses in place.
Okay, yeah. So this was maybe not surprising. Nurses have said over 60% have said, I'm dissatisfied with my total compensation. So David, that means more than just their salary. Is that correct?
Correct. And is absolutely correct. But take a look at that. Two-thirds, which is in previous, you will always say nobody's ever happy with their compensation, but really, no. Two-thirds are dissatisfied with their compensation. That speaks volumes about how we value our nurses. Not only salaries do not match their skills and expertise that are required, but they fundamentally do not reflect what we call the value of care. No, nurses in particular, nurses, social workers, teachers are always seen as professions that we don't always compensate for all the value that they represent into our institutions. Nurses are at the heart and soul of healthcare, providing essential human connection and compassion. We need to advocate for a compensation model that recognizes the intrinsic value of going beyond a market comparison. Okay, hospitals feel that they are in the marketplace and comparing salaries with with people in their areas, and therefore they are on the market for salaries, but they absolutely are not doing a fair job on what the compensation of those jobs are. This is an issue that we actually have some good solutions for, and we are going to be talking in a great more detail in one of our future conversations.
Okay, so you're really talking about advocating for a compensation model that really honors the contributions that nurses make in patients' lives and in, healthcare overall.
Mhm.
Okay,
Correct, Terry.
okay, very good. So here you go. Wage increases do not reflect my contributions.
Yeah, another very high percentage. Over three-quarters, not two-thirds, three-quarters of the people are not particularly happy the way their increases actually reflect what they consider they are contributing to their work. No, this is really a direct indictment of the current system. We need to move beyond outdated pay structures. We need to really develop a merit-based system that rewards experience, skills, dedication. It's not only to improve morale, but to incentivize nurses to stay and to grow with the organization. So this is also a significant retention issue. They don't feel that this increase in compensation really speak loudly about the institution wanting to retain them long term.
That's interesting, David, because when you think about the increases, nurses love to be on teams that make contributions for improvements, and people that participate in those teams and are really, engaged in the work and the improvements. That's another great opportunity for people to receive compensation based on the work, the ideas, the implementation that they do. So yeah, I understand that. It's a very good point.
Correct. And
Um,
and merit-based increases in compensation have been, for the most part, eliminated. It's just market-based. How the
yes.
new compensations are being, no, are being established.
Yeah, yeah. So an opportunity to look at a different way.
Mhm.
Okay. So, this is I'm contributing more for less benefits. So tell me about that.
Yeah, again, another interesting results. Over 30%, uh, feeling that their benefits are eroding, where the workloads are increasing. Uh, really is a recipe for what I would like to call a burnout and turnover. We need to protect and enhance benefit packages, not recognizing them as a crucial part of the compensation. And it's a key factor in attracting and retaining top talent. If they feel that their salaries may stay on par or whatever, but if they feel that you are eroding their benefits, it's really going to affect significantly, their retention of these individuals.
Good point. Good point. Boy, unmanageable nurse to patient work ratios or workloads. 44% are saying that this is unmanageable for the type of work and the service that we offer to patients and families. What else did you find out about this in the survey?
Well, we know that there have been a bit of a shift in many institutions to be very focused on their bottom line. No money, no mission, having financial results of the institution. So that has hit. So not surprising that almost half, no, 44% is not exactly half, but almost half of the nurses find that their workloads are not manageable. Part of that is obviously the retention creates vacancies. Vacancies create additional work on the units, no additional shifts that are actually being created, and there just isn't enough nurses to to satisfy the work, the heavy work that is happening. Care is growing in the United States. Population is getting old, so the workloads are just increasing, and uh, patient care and patient safety is just a crisis waiting to happen. We need to advocate for dismantling silly ideas like hours of care, hours per patient day, and protecting sustainable workloads. Even the means of challenging budgetary constraints to ensure that nurses and patients are protected. And there are awesome ideas to really solve this issue. We had them in the marketplace for quite a while, easy ways to resolve these issues. So, no, protect workloads, protect patient care, deliver better financial outcomes than the traditional methods that the hospital have been using for quite a while.
Good point. Very good point. So nurses consistently say, but almost 40% of the time that they're unable to take regular breaks. So tell us about that.
That's another interesting question. Obviously, we move the bulk of the inpatient care to 12-hour shifts. There was kind of a joint agreement between the staff and the hospitals that it was more valuable for people to work the longer shifts, the 12 hours instead of the old traditional 8-hour shifts. The issue with that is obviously on those long stretches, people with those heavy workloads, they do need a break. So when almost, well over a third, almost 40% of the nurses are reporting that they can, during those long shifts, they cannot get a break just because of the way workloads are actually being set up. This this is really really a bad thing. Breaks are not a perk. Breaks are a way to maintain the good physical and mental well-being of the nurses. We need to really enforce policies that ensure adequate staffing coverage, and obviously that create a culture that a break is a value to the people delivering care at that time. And it's not just seen as an inconvenience. Oh, you're taking a break. What an inconvenience that you are actually have to take a break.
That is such an interesting way of looking at that because you're right. It's not like, as you say, it's not a perk. It's really an opportunity for people to take a brief rest from the mental, emotional, physical needs of a very demanding position.
Correct.
So yeah,
Mhm.
understood. Now, here's a discussion about documentation. So, excessive documentation workload. We all know there's a lot of documentation in healthcare. So, what were your findings on this?
Well, look at the numbers. Almost half of the nurses, again, are telling us that they feel that there is a lot of work related to just documenting. This is another one of those fallacies that the hospital embarked over a couple of decades ago, and they somehow have not been able to resolve this issue. They went and took an old documentation formatting and they just computerized it with the expectation that somehow that was going to make it better for everyone. People forget how much easier it is to grab a pen and a pencil and write something versus the issues related with the computers. So the computerization of documentation doesn't mean that they were really resigned to strictly communicate what was really needed and not a lot of stuff that was there on the paper documentation, that they only added the basic things that were needed for billing and risk management. Instead of that, still cumbersome documentation that we used to have that only happened, it became computerized and it does not really, do for a faster system. All it does is for a much slower system. So technologies, for example, like just recording the interaction, either via video or via uh, voice, and some of those issues that are important to eliminate a lot of the communication that is being presented was never taken into consideration. Hospitals and their fancy documentation system that they have implemented completely missed the mark. They became cumbersome. Nurses in general dread those documentation systems. Millions and millions or billions of dollars were invested on this technology with little result, little value for the people in the front lines.
So, there really is an opportunity to revisit
Mhm.
that documentation, talk about things,
Mhm.
as you mentioned, voice-based or video charting, something
Mhm.
that is looking at technology in a different way instead of just taking what we had, plugging it in, and finding that it didn't work very well.
Correct, correct.
Okay. Um, so when we think about nurses looking for professional development and career growth, this was a good question. I have abundant opportunities for career advancement. Boy, 71% said no, they don't see that.
Yeah, so 70% don't feel that their current job is going to get them anywhere else within the institution. That all they see is that they are basically, that job is, I don't want to use the word dead end, but basically professionally, they don't think that it's going to bring them anywhere else. We need to invest in career development programs, mentorship opportunities, clear pathways for professional growth, both clinical and non-clinical routes. This is not only a benefit for the individual nurses, but it will create a more engaged and skilled workforce. Hospitals seem to not always be in tune on what some of these things mean. No, for their growth professionally of their workforce and the opportunities that they will potentially bring to the quality of care that they are actually delivering.
Yeah, getting a more engaged workforce
Hmm.
is what everybody is looking for. So professional development, you're right, very important. Okay, so leadership is not responsive to my ideas or concerns.
Yeah, that this is another interesting thing. So, no, everybody no seems to think that when you ask this type of question, no, you're always going to get a large number of people who will never be happy to what he says. But in reality, the fact that almost 40% of the nurses feel unheard by leadership, it erodes trust and fuels no disengagements. In times of crisis and when you have workforce vacancies, high turnovers, we need leaders who can listen, respond, and act to those nurses. They have to listen to those concerns, pay attention to them, solicit those concerns. This requires open communication channels that we all think that we have, but most of the time we don't have. Transparent decision making, that the nurses understand why some decisions have been made, and a genuine commitment of valuing the nurses' expertise, that they can bring to the table some, both clinically and operational, some interesting ideas that we need to put on the table and consider to really change the way things are actually done.
Yeah, good point. Boy, there's a lot of, if you look at healthcare news these days, there's a lot of discussion about nurses who have experienced negative interactions with patients and families, things like bullying, things like, anger towards caregivers. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, even the American Nursing Association has taken this issue. As you can see, um, uh, 43% almost, no, again, a very sizable amount of people is experiencing negative interactions. Obviously, as workload has increased, that means the amount of time that some nurses have to dedicate to some of their patients becomes a bit more limited. And a common result of that is anger, fight with the nurse, certain level of abuse. Some of those interactions become abusive in many ways, both physically and non-physical way. Families demand that being nurses being the front line, that then blame them unfairly for anything and everything that goes on the hospital. This obviously is unacceptable. We need to create, obviously zero tolerance policies for any form of abuse. But on the other hand, we have to provide a way to de-escalate some of these issues. Many of our staff has never been trained to de-escalation methodologies, and create a bit more support resources, foster a culture where nurses feel safe and respected in the workplace. That oftentimes they feel kind of they are left alone with these issues to contend with. We also need to spend more time, obviously, educating the public on the vital role that these nurses, the front line of our care, provide to them, and the importance of treating them with dignity and respect they deserve for all the things that they are doing for them.
Very good point. Certainly the education for nurses and for the public will create a safer environment for care to be delivered and for, people to have dignity and respect in all aspects of their work life. Okay, and this is work-life balance is stressful. 60% of the respondents said, yes, it is. My work-life balance is stressful.
Yeah, that's again a serious concern. Remember that well over 80% of the nursing workforce is female. We know that women often shoulder a disproportionate share of family responsibilities. Failing to address this imbalance isn't just about their individual well-being, it perpetuates systematic inequities. We need to create a supportive environment that acknowledges the unique challenges faced by nurses and provide resources, and not only on flexible schedule, on childcare support, on family-friendly policies to help them thrive both personally and professionally. There is There also have been a change. The new generations coming to help to work into the healthcare, they have also a different understanding of this work-life balance that some of the older generations took in a different way. There is a bit of a different understanding on balancing your day-to-day life with your day-to-day work. Many of us used to say, my work, my life. Now, a lot of the people don't adhere to that philosophy. They consider that they have a life and work is just a part of what is all of that, but it's not their beyond end all for many of them.
Probably makes for a healthier workforce with that idea of, I have to have balance. I can't have everything so heavy into work and nothing left over for family and family time and personal growth and development. So, David, a question I have is, what do we do with this information? So, what are the opportunities?
Well, as you can see, there is a ton of opportunities, and the part is discovering the problems is not necessarily the solution. So what we're going to do next is we are going to show everyone how we have come up with all the necessary solutions to address each one of these parts. We have all the methodologies and all the thinking necessary to help the hospitals transition out of these circumstances. What it is important is that the hospitals react quickly to understand that this issue is not something that you push under the rug. Um, Retention of staff is costing the hospitals millions and millions and millions of dollars. Recruiting a new nurse cost on average to a hospital almost in the $80,000 to $90,000. So that when CNEs or CFOs or all the C-suite start looking at the reasons why some of their bottom line don't look so good, a good chunk of that has to do that we don't pay enough attention at the pieces that need to have both operational and from the recruitment and retention side to eliminate that huge, huge expense.
Okay, well, David, thank you so much. I'm so looking forward to future episodes where you can help us kind of break down some of these issues and see about some solutions and a good way to move forward. So, again, thank you for your time today. Thank you all that have joined us, and I wish you a good day.
Thanks, everyone, and looking forward to a future session.